Howdy folks, welcome back. You can see I got Dorothy covered here. I'm going to do some of the transition, getting ready to do some paint. Going to start with the doors, see if I can come up with a platform or something to put them in so I can get both sides painted at the same time and get them ready to be in color. Another part here, just the dash overlay. So there's, I've seen a couple different versions of this. One's just like a plastic covering that's supposed to go over top of your existing dashboard. That's, they're kind of, I bought one of those by mistake because they were cheap, not really thinking. But, and it actually cracked on me. They're not very pliable. But again, it's just an overlay. But obviously, Dorothy's dash was just shredded, and even the black cars is in bad shape. So I ended up splurging for a new one. Got it from the Roadster factory. You can see here that this has got all of the padding already in it, and it just kind of glues on. It seems to fit okay. There's obviously a lot of leftover material here, which is good, but this is going to take the windscreen frame and all that stuff right now. This is where the windscreen frame goes in. This is covering it up. This is going to take some work to make sure that everything is how it should be, but I'm happy with what I've got here. The original car also comes with a metal strip that goes in here and kind of goes inside of this part, and that's what you got little bolt holes here. That's what all that does, and I don't think there's a way to really, I think that metal strip is molded into the dash, into the rubber or into the foam. That's not how this one is. So this is strictly glued on, but not something that I'll do in conjunction with fitting the windscreen, that's for sure. Got my pipe clamps, so I got my other my final heater hose plugged in there, and now there's a little flap that goes back here. Let me get on the other side. So you can see that you've got these grates up here, and that's the heater box that's under there, so that the air would come in and get sucked in through these grates, and there's grates in the top of the bonnet, and the air would get sucked in through there, and then you run it through the car and heat it. Well, obviously, there's no covering here, so when it rains, well, the water collects in there. Not a great design. The TR4s, or the big TRs, they had little doors here, the 6s did, that you could open and shut. I'm sure to save money with the Spitfire, they didn't do that. But what happens is the water collects, and then it's supposed to come out this rather large hole that's here, which you can't see that at all. There it is, this guy right here, right there. And it's supposed to just kind of spill out of that, and that gets a little flap put over it. And it's just a little rubber flap just to prevent, I'm not real sure what the rubber flap is for, to tell you the truth, just to prevent incidental stuff from getting in there. The very early cars, and I'm not sure when they stopped, had a tube that would come out of there and go right to here and then drain down, just like I'm sure it was metal, but like a little PVC, but made out of metal drain pipe, which to me makes a heck of a lot more sense than just dumping the water right out onto the firewall. Because then what's that's going to do? Well, the water's just going to sit there and collect and get in the crevices under here and in the battery box, and it just, you know, slowly tears that stuff up. So it's a horrible design. I know that there's some people that have made cowlings and things like that. They go over the bonnets that cover that, and I've seen some other designs there just to prevent that. Now, I don't really intend on taking Dorothy out in the rain, so I'm being my purest self and going to keep it original, or as original as I can get. But another pretty glaring design miscue, in my opinion. They definitely made a decision there not to put a better solution in on purpose. Pulled the control box out just to give me a little bit better access, but I got the little flapper door on there, and it just kind of hangs straight down. It's not meant to make a seal at all. And used my orange stick to get that pressed in there. And if you don't know what an orange stick is, you have to watch another video. Got this grommet back in. The 3 bundles of wire there eventually form into one, and they do it not quite far enough back to give me some slack on the wire bundle. So as I was pulling it through, it kind of widened out and then pulled the grommet through. And I also got this guy in there, and that was a real pain in the rear. I used that orange stick again to really jam that thing in there. I thought I may have very well have torn it once or twice, but it's in there and it will provide some. You can see that the harness is kind of distorting it quite a bit, so I got to see if I can jockey that around to make it not so so bendy there. Something I haven't dug into for a while is my door stuff. So this is the window where the door window goes in. Sits in this slot here, and then you got the window crank over here. Got that guy. And then all the that here, this guy here is for opening the door. That runs across the door. So I'll show you here how this works. Alright, so take for example that this is your window mechanism. And this is probably the passenger side door, I'm thinking. So you'd have your window crank down here. And essentially all you would do is obviously crank the window, and you can kind of see, now this would be bolted in and stationary. If I hold that stationary, you can see this crank starts to go. And you can see how that caused that gear to turn and caused the window to come up. That's all me turning, and then as I lower the window, that would come back down. So not a whole lot to it. This one's got a problem because there's supposed to be a big heavy-duty spring right here, which is obviously right here, but not on this one. I don't know if these are available. I got all this stuff for at least a door each in the black car. So if worse comes to worse, I can just steal parts from the black car. But just kind of clean this stuff up. Unfortunately, with a lot of this, it's all riveted together. Very little of it is actually bolted together. Most of the bolts are to get bolted to the door, not bolted it together. So you got to kind of, it's a little bit of a pain in the rear to clean because you can't disassemble it and clean everything. These parts here, these are the side rails that support on the inside of the door, top and bottom, but they would mount vertically front to back. And that essentially holds the channel for the inside of the door. Or excuse me, the channel for the inside of the window. So, yeah, we'll see what I can do. All right, well, it looks like some of this is disassemblable. So I've got these little clips here, 2 of those. They're sprung. If I undo those, it looks like this top portion will come off, which is good because then I can fit that entirely in the water here. The other portions are kind of long, but that's fine. So I'm not real sure how that comes apart, but we're going to clean it up and find out. It looks like just a simple spring clip there. Just prise off. Yeah, that just comes right off there, not a whole lot to that. And there's a little washer, rubber washer, that looks like it's shot. Gonna probably want to replace that. That's that one. I guess there is no spring, it's just the metal itself that's sprung. We'll do the other one. A little tab broke on me. Yeah, that's all there is to that. There's a little rubber piece in there too. Take some pictures here so I remember how this stuff goes together. Alright, so you're left with this big long piece here, which is where the glass fits in, and that'll essentially go into the bottom of the door. That's interesting. So this piece here is not anywhere near as sprung as that piece there was. I wonder if that's just means that that guy's bent or what. I wonder if the original drawings will tell me. You can see how different they are. Alright, but anyway, get this arranged so that it all fits in there. I'll leave the other pieces alone for now. Put some purple power in here. A little bit more hot water and we'll let it set until I come back this weekend. That should give me enough to let it soak for a couple days. Come back and revisit it. See how it goes. So one of the last things I want to do tonight before I get out of here is start the car, get it running, and check the heater core now that I piped it in. So again, the water comes out, comes into the heater core here when it leaves the head into the heater control valve, I should say. And if you have that open, it goes into the heater core, comes back out and does into the return pipe to go back into the water pump. This cable here comes into the passenger compartment where the little heater thing is. I didn't really think ahead too far, so unfortunately I'm afraid that the battery is going to not last and get the car started, but hopefully we'll see here. Prime the fuel pump. Forgot about that. Well, it seems like there's not a spark. Now let me pull a plug. Plugs are wet. Probably tells me I'm not sparking. Yeah, I don't have a spark. Huh. Well, where did that go? I haven't done anything. There we go. That's something in the distributor. Alright, let's keep going, baby. Come on before the battery dies. Not going to get it tonight. Alright, well, unfortunately this is going to have to wait till the next visit. The battery charger says the thing's at 4%, so battery's definitely dead. That's a bummer. So, I'll wait to test the heater until another time. Or maybe not. Won't stay running though. Or maybe it will. Alright, well, ignition light is out, so that's good. Take this battery charger off before I blow something up. Ignition light's still out, so that's good. Alright, so real quick I'm going to turn the heater on, I think. Don't really have any heat coming out of there yet, but alright, so that heater should be open. Our car's definitely warming up. Definitely hot water running both ways. I don't really feel like it's all that hot. getting warm now. I'll show you. Don't mind the smoke. Hopefully it's just oil burning off. But the little discharge port right under there, that would go to the vent eventually when I get it piped in. But that's definitely coming out warm. And no drips. At least none that I see. If you want to get your feet warm, you open that up and then you can feel the warm air coming out. Car's definitely heating up. I had those fuses blow on me, but I don't know what happened there. Let's see if the horn beeps. Yep, gotta love it. All right, well, I would say op test is set for that heater core. Not seeing any leaks. And it's getting a little nasty in here, so I'm gonna shut it down and call it a night. Got all of these parts for the windscreen or the door stuff all kind of cleaned up here. Show you something here. So this one here, if you can see, this big old welding. So obviously that bar broke at some point. And this, my guess is, if you remember I showed you where this one was bent, my guess is maybe the difference in the construction now, because it was repaired, is causing that bar to bend. I'm not real sure. I straightened it back out, and I measured from the center of this guy to the center of this guy, and it's off by like 2 millimeters or so from the original one that wasn't broken. So I really doubt that that is going to make that much of a difference. And then I got the last pieces in here. This is the actual window will go inside of this rail in here, and this is the piece that lifts that up, and this slides inside of there for the joints. So I'm going to transfer some of this water to a bucket so that more of this can get in there. Obviously they're way too big to go in there, but I'll get those cleaned up. And then let's see, next up I'm going to get the car positioned here. I got the battery on charge just to kind of keep it healthy. I ran the car just a couple minutes ago. I had a buddy over here just to show him. So she's still starting up. Doesn't like to start cold though, I'll tell you that. But I'm going to get the paint booth set up back there, and I also have to come up with a solution for the doors and how I am going to mount the doors so that I can get both sides of the doors at the same time. So that that's going to probably be the majority of my day today, is getting ready for the next phase of painting. Got the new smaller paint booth set up. Couple design changes. One, obviously it's, like I said, it's smaller, but I should have more than enough room in here. The bonnet is the last largest piece to paint, and I'll set it up long ways here. I got about an 8-foot shot here that'll give me a couple feet on either side and on the front and everything, so it'll give me ample room to get around it. I changed the way that I hung it. Previously I just punched holes in the top of the tarp and hung it directly from the hook. Now I put little zip ties in there to suspend it from the zip ties. I'm hoping that'll allow me to more easily put it up and take it down without destroying the plastic. I'm also, at least for now, going to leave the bottom of the plastic as it sits instead of rolling it up. I did cut the front here a little bit just to allow a little bit easier access, because that's my door flap right there, so that I don't trip over myself and hurt myself or scratch something coming in and out of here. So not too bad. I'm happy with the way that it looks, and it should give me more than enough room to do everything that I want to do. I still have to cut a hole for the fan and that kind of stuff, but for the most part I should be just fine. Here are the doors. This will be the next thing that I paint. It's been a while since I painted anything, kind of forgot where I was. So these have not been wet sanded yet, so they need to get 320 and then 400 wet. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that now instead of setting up stands for them. So hopefully that comes out okay. There's still some imperfections and stuff in here. Hopefully that'll take care of it. I can see right there some scratches. I don't know if you can see that in the light or not. I really don't feel like doing any more body work. So hopefully, knock on wish me luck that stuff will come out. Otherwise, gonna go ahead and get to wet sanding and see where we end up. Been a little while since I've done any of this stuff. Hopefully I don't forget. But I have a 3M palm sander here. I got it from, for those of you that don't know, got it from Amazon on one of their warehouse deals. I think it normally retails for like 180 bucks, and I think I got it for 75 or 80. So the thing's pretty great. I enjoy it. Variable speed and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, 320 pad dry, take this down, and then I'll switch over to 400 and go wet, and then see where I'm at. I don't think I'm going to be able to get away without having to put some spot putty on this thing, unfortunately. All right, let's take a look. Pretty good scratch right there. That's in a little bit. Some artifact, something right there. And then all these lines right here, you can see them. I'm not sure if that's detrimental or not. And then around the brake lock, or I mean the lock, the door lock. A little bit of a low spot here that I can actually feel. But everything else seems to be pretty good. You can, if you saw this is where the crease is in the door. You can see it's not a huge angle, but definitely don't want to spend a lot of time running over that. I did poke through a little bit of bare metal there, a little bit of bare metal there, and then a little spot right there on where the door handle goes in, but not too bad. I'll mix up some spot putty and get it on there, and if I can feel this, I'll get it on here. And then hit it at 320 again to bring that back down. And you got to do a little bit on here still. So yeah, sorry about the camera not being able to focus real well on a single color, but not too bad. I was able to fill in that little chip right there. That was no problem, and everything else actually sanded out. So even though you can kind of just barely see those scratches, they're not unlevel. It's just the difference in color between the build primer and the epoxy primer. So done through 320. The other door came out, see, that would be the passenger side there, came out much better, much more smooth than the driver's did. I guess it got less use, I don't know. So now I'm going to do 400 wet and then essentially be done with the doors. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the edges and everything. You're not going to see them. And two, you can't really block that out or anything. I'll get in there with a red scuff pad. And then the interior here, there's a black vinyl strip that goes and covers the majority of this up top here, which was a Mark II thing. The Mark I's were body color. So I am going to paint the both sides of the door, obviously, everywhere. But I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. Obviously, the door card's going to be covering the majority of this, so not too worried about it. So I'll get through 400 wet and then probably call it for the day. So really all I'm doing here is I got a spray bottle with just regular old water, a couple drops of Dawn detergent, spraying it down, spray the pad itself. If you remember when I did my last wet sanding, these aren't wet dry discs, they're just dry discs, so eventually it'll start to come apart, but it lasts long enough, that small enough panel that I don't wreck it. But I spray the pad directly and then spray where I'm sanding and just work through it. cheesy, but I think it'll work. So the big reason for doing this is so that I can get both sides of the door all at the same time and not have to flip it, so that I'm trying to minimize the chances of getting lines and things like that, tape lines, that kind of stuff. And it also will obviously save me a little bit of time. Could have made it a little bit higher, maybe another 6 inches higher, just to make it a little easier to get to the bottom. I think it'll work. And also the doors are much heavier on this side because of the hinge plates and all that kind of stuff, so that it wants to fall a little bit. So the whole contraption kind of leans a little bit. But I'm not going to be leaving these up here overnight, tonight anyway. But I think it's pretty sturdy. I put just little reinforcement corners in there and the little standoffs there because the door wants to tend to fall in. So, and again, I'm not painting or not worried about not getting the paint on the inside here because that's all going to be covered by the door panel anyway. So that's inconsequential. But that's yeah. So I'm happy with that. It's a lot better than like I said, putting it on a sawhorse and flipping it, or God forbid, hanging it and dropping it again. Alright folks, thanks so much for watching. Please leave a comment below, tell me what you think. Well, I got as much done today as I wanted to get done. Next visit, I'll hopefully get a full strength coat of white epoxy primer on there in preparation for red paint, and then I'll look at doing just a sealing coat after that. There is some bare metal spots that I want to get covered, so that's hence the reason for the full strength coat in those particular areas. So, thanks again, take care, cheers.